This game features the Steamroller 2015 Fire Sport scenario. Fire Sport scenario features Killbox. You can dominate the friendly flag for 1 control point. You can control the enemy flag for 1 control point, or dominate the enemy flag for 2 control points. The enemy objective is destroyed or removed from play, as also worth 1 control point. The first player to earn at least 5 control points wins the game.
Hey everybody, Taodark here. So for this week I'm going to be running the 3rd and final round of the Scrambles, and I'm not list locked to anything. However, my opponent is list locked, and he's list locked into his double Colossal list. With the Earthbreaker in play, it has me concerned. I mean, ideally maybe I could pull off go for an assassination run with the Zerkova list and potentially get some sprays past, targeting the Colossal to kill out, support staff or Thorn, or just assassinating out the caster. But I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of line of sight blocking issues, even with arc nodes running around. So for the most part, I feel a little bit more comfortable with the Karchev list. Also because in Karchev's spell casting list, he has the ability called Sidearms, which means that as long as he's in base-to-base contact with one of the jacks in his battle group, either the Spriggan or Beast or 9, he not only is +1 to his defense, but he also cannot be knocked down. So to take down the one of the main benefits of the Earthbreaker, in that you can knock you down and then turn around and assassinate you. Because I'm not comfortable with the low defense, high armor of Pikemen, I decided to swap out for stealth Kayazy, so that his AoEs have to drift at least.
Hey everybody, this is JD, and today I'll finally be playing General Ossrum and his double Colossal list. This list heavily leverages Ossrum's ability to be able to support Warjacks in Snipe and Fire for effect, to really bring the threat ranges of the Galleon and the Earthbreaker to a maximum. Along with support pieces like Thor and Dougal, Aiyanna and Holt, Gorman, and Anastasia, this list definitely shoots up from a 10 to an 11 as far as what it can do to threaten your opponent out of zones. Even though this list has a pretty weak scenario presence based on the model count and its speed, it definitely has a lot of potential to attrition and clear out things.
So for my deployment, there's a couple things that come into play. He's won the role, and he has opted to take the left side, or I'm sorry, the right side of the screen. I think this is in part to the hill, and then when he turns around and deploys his Colossals basically near that hill, that kind of cinches it for me, because Colossal's on a hill. Karchev could theoretically block line of sight to him with his 2 jacks. On a hill, however, that does no benefit to him. So there's a couple things that I see on my side of the table that I want to take advantage of, and that is the fact that there's these little tents that we're calling obstructions, and then there's the walls that are also on this side. And between the 3 tents running down the middle, I feel like I can comfortably advance Karchev up the field, and have him and potentially his jacks in position in such a way that the Galleon's not going to be able to harpoon pull them. And then with sidearms, I'm not necessarily worried about the knockdown effects of the Colossals, or of the Earthbreaker.
Alright, so my deployment was fairly simple. I won the role for priority and decided to take the hill so I can get the elevated attacker bonus for all of my Colossals, which is why you see them being deployed down there. The rest of my support is there to clear off the Kayazy assassins, which he ADR'd in. This allows me to create assassination opportunities every single time Karchev moves up the board, and if he decides to camp, then I can spread rough terrain with my Earthbreaker and drag in and kill 1 jack at a time.
Khador, turn 1. So as I mentioned in my deployment, I'm definitely going to be advancing up the middle. The scenario is a weird one for me. I was looking at it when I was playing it, and even looking at it now. The problem that I'm going to run into is that it's really easy for him to contest anything on the flags. The Colossals have such a large base value to them that they can get within 4 inches, and he can easily contest the flags or prevent me from getting any damage out to that effect. I have my Kayazy's advancing up on the left-hand side. They run with the Underboss towing into the woods. My main goal for them this game is to get them into a situation where they advance up next turn, and then on turn 3 I can use their mini feat to advance past his support staff and either get to Thorn or get to his caster or just kill his support staff. I mean, all of his support staff's in one clustered group, so that's, I mean, they're basically just going to run across to deal with them. The big pieces that I want to get out of the way is Thorn. Killing Thorn really mitigates down a lot of the damage that the Earthbreaker can do, so he's kind of my top priority. Followed suit closely with Iris and then Gorman, Lady Aiyanna, Holt, and then Gorman. Terrandale Larvisi is up near the top. She's behind a wall. I'm not necessarily too concerned about her. He's flanking her so hard. He's probably going to try and go after support staff with her, but I'm not worried about her necessarily too much. I mean, I have to respect that she's there. So I put up tow, I advance up, and I bring the jacks in, and then I switch out for sidearms. It's going to keep my armor low, but it gets my jacks up the field a little bit more, so I'm in better position. And then dog and mechanics and everything advance up. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just advancing up Behemoth now and getting it so that he's going to be closer to the wall, or I want to advance him up and shoot. I want to get him a little closer to the wall, but still keep him within 2 of Karchev so that Karchev could potentially tow him next turn. The big thing about this list is that Malakov runs Behemoth on his own focus mechanic, so he's not going to be a draw off of Karchev.
Alright, Merc's turn 1. I didn't really have a chance to go into very big detail about what my plans are going into this game. Karchev is an interesting puzzle because he does have sidearms, which allows him to ignore being knocked down. He effectively gains steady. And he also can be quite hard to hit defensively with sidearms if he bunches up a bunch of jacks. He of course needs to tow though if he wants to kind of bullet a jack into one of my colossals and hopefully take it off the board. My plan then going into this first turn is I have to leverage 2 things. One, I have to stop his jacks or Karchev from coming in full force and taking 1.5 or both my colossals off the table. This requires me to feat turn 1 for the extra armor, since Behemoth is probably going to be the prime target to be sent in first against me. Since he went first, he's up far enough in the board where spreading rough terrain isn't going to be very valuable in stopping those charges. A big problem in this Karchev list is the ability to, or the inability to ignore rough terrain. What I'm doing here is just getting my solo activations out of the way. I start off with Ossrum, I put Snipe on Gorman, and I put Fire for Effect on Herne and Jonne, which is generally the Fire for Effect target that stays on for the rest of the game until Herne or Jonne dies. Gorman with Snipe is very interesting. There are variants of this list that can run Iris 1, and you can shoot somebody at the top of turn 1, Warmachine caster, specifically if they deploy at the 10-inch mark. So these are a lot of the tricks that you can do with a powerful ability like Snipe. You're going to be swapping Snipe anyways the next turn with the Earthbreaker, so it's not that big of a deal. My Colossals are going to run up and tow up on the hill. Basically, this turn I'm expecting either my opponent to dump most of his focus into the Behemoth and other jacks and put up sidearms, and bullet a jack into the Galleon, or sit back and let me rain rough terrain on them. Either way is preferable. As long as he doesn't take the Earthbreaker off the table, I should be good.
Khador, turn 2. So as I suspected, they've advanced up, and they've put themselves, within tow of the hill. This is one of the scenarios where I think I might be able to put a Behemoth, a fully focused redlined Behemoth into one of those Colossals this turn. And that's because Karchev can spend 1 to give himself Pathfinder and get over the wall. If I can give Karchev a charge target on the left side, or my left side of the tent, then he'll pivot to the charge target, getting the increased distance, and then we'll also be able to rotate the jacks that are in his toe into the arc. And because it's a place effect, even though the Behemoth is on the left hand side of Karchev right now, he can go on the right hand side behind Karchev when they're placed. So this gives a huge threat range for Behemoth, and then redline should be enough from the point of the tent for me to charge in. I would prefer to take out the Earthbreaker, but my opponent feeded last turn, so with that, the Earthbreaker is a much higher defense, and even though I have armor piercing, I'm not comfortable in going after the Earthbreaker and guaranteeing that I can knock it out. I'd love to be able to kill, you know, one of these Colossals and then put some damage into another, but still keep it engaged. That being said, I don't know if it's necessarily possible under feet. So here I advance up, and basically what I'm doing is I'm running my Kayazy up. You'll notice one of them went towards a tent. He's going to be my charge target for Karchev. And then I'm just basically running them up. I engaged Gorman because I don't want him oiling Karchev, and I basically just want to lock him down. And I tried to get to Lady Aiyanna, but I don't believe I had the range for it. And I'm just setting it up because, again, next turn I'm going to pop my mini feet. I'm going to basically jump over everything or charge into everything. The ones that are currently engaged or in the lead will jump past to get to the support staff, especially Thorn. I got Thorn in my sights. He's got a crosshair on him. So if next turn I'm definitely going after Thorn. And then I'm just setting it up. The Spriggan is kind of sitting on the right-hand side. He's broke off from the main group, and that is because I want to set something heavy into that zone so that I don't have some random thing advancing up and taking points onto that zone. That's my contesting piece. So I advance up Karchev. I spend the 1 for the Pathfinder. I spend the toe, I spend the toe because I put sidearms up last time. And then I need to make sure that I can't get knocked down next turn, so then I drop sidearms. And I'm almost certain that completely wipes me out, or I think maybe leaves me on 1 point. The advantages of Malakov running Behemoth is I can do all that, and Behemoth still gets his 3. And since allocation happened before, even though Malakov is now back by the tent, Behemoth has got his thing. So next turn, Behemoth's not going to be able to do much, but honestly, if I can trade Behemoth for a Galleon, I'm okay with that. I'd love to keep him around, but I'll still have Beast 09 around to deal with the Earthbreaker next turn. My Spriggan just kind of advances up, getting into the wall. I position him touching the wall so that we can check angles, but he should be able to potentially clip a wall, which will stop a toe if for whatever reason the Galleon doesn't die. And then I'm just kind of getting myself into position. Malakov runs up, support staff, Mechaniks run up to prepare. I'm doing all of my activations, make sure there's nothing else that can contribute towards destroying the Galleon. I've decided to go after the Galleon because of the feat. He's the better target for me to do, but I'm going to basically set it up so that I charge into the Galleon. I have to use a proxy base because the big arms of the Earthbreaker prevents anything. But basically charging in, doing all of my melee attacks onto the Galleon, but still having a half-inch onto the Earthbreaker. So we both consent that I'm able to do that. I'm engaging the Earthbreaker. He's not going to get aim bonuses next turn. And then I turn around and charge in that Galleon to do some damage. A little bit of spoilers as to what happens in this turn is that the the Galleon manages to live. I end up hitting him a lot. I feel like my rolls, because they were boosted, should have been a little higher. I got 9 damage on one. I think this one I got 8, and I'm sitting at +4, I believe, with Redline. So I'm doing a lot of damage with armor piercing on the Galleon, but the dice might have been a little bit slighter than what I expected. And then I ended up leaving the Galleon on 1 hit point. So the Galleon, though pretty much out of the game because it's only got 1 hit point, is still standing. He's still an obstruction there. And that means that I didn't get any rolls on the Earthbreaker at all. So that feat, without that feat, I probably would have more than been able to kill the Galleon. There was just raging about that 1 hit point. More than able to kill the Galleon and potentially do a lot of damage on the Earthbreaker to take out one of its gun systems. But it just was not in the cards.
Alright, Merc's turn 2. Hey, everything worked out. Almost exactly how I expected. There was a little scary there, but I think had he gone for the Earthbreaker with his Behemoth, I don't think he would have been able to take it off with the armor buff. His rolls were quite good, so you never know. But he decided to go for the Galleon, which is probably the safer result anyways. The problem being, though, that the Galleon is still left alive. It's practically useless because it only has 1 box on it, but it is still there. So thankfully, it's not rough terrain. That's a common problem with this list when you're running double Colossals, is when one of them dies, or both of them dies, all of your support and all of your great solos and Ossrum himself at speed 4 isn't going anywhere because he's been sitting behind 5 inches of rough terrain. But luckily, I'm deciding here how I'm going to facilitate this assassination. Karchev is camping, I believe, 1 or 2? I believe 1. Actually, so these rolls will be dice off 7 with 3 dice on a tuned-up Earthbreaker. I definitely have the range, especially with Snipe and Dougal's mini-feat, and Artillerist, but for the most part, this is going to be actually pretty hard to hit. Karchev sitting behind the obstruction is going to give him cover. And he has sidearms up, which ups his defense by 1, since there's 1 jack there, and doesn't allow for any kind of knockdown ability. I'm going to be using the rough terrain shots from the Earthbreaker, but I'm trying to figure out how to get Karchev's defense lower. My best bet is with Gorman, and so I'm just sitting here trying to figure out what I can really do to free up Gorman from these Kayazy assassins. So what I'm going to utilize is Ossrum's passive ability of Martial Discipline, which is often forgotten by a lot of people too. That allows me to charge Gastone into the first Kayazy assassin that has pretty much locked down Aiyanna and blocked off a charge lane from Holt. Gastone, with full focus, not able to allocate anything to the Galleon, easily takes off that Kayazy assassin and allows for Holt to charge in with Gunfighter. His mat is not anything impressive, but Gunfighter is pretty impressive at Rat 8 against the Kayazy assassin. The Kayazy assassin's duelist only proc off of melee attacks, so it was likely that I was going to kill that Kayazy assassin. With this now, we're able to move Gorman. Gorman's no longer being engaged. We have to be careful, though, about a countercharge from that dog, so we want to walk in such a way where he's not within 6 inches. And I believe we just take a shot with Holt at the dog, and that knocks him down, and we're able to go ahead and just advance without any worry. We're going to go ahead and drift a Blind Bomb onto Karchev, and this is going to basically negate the cover bonus that he's getting. So defense 13 is not horribly exciting, but not horrible either. For the most part, I should be able to hit with my Rat 5. I allocated 3 focus to the Earthbreaker in this kind of situation to kind of boost every single shot that I'm getting. I'm not going to be boosting the Earthquake shots, obviously, but I will be needing to boost the repeating cannon shots. And so here I am contemplating what I'm going to be doing next. Is it worth an activation of the Galleon to kind of cripple the Behemoth? Is it worth me casting Bulldoze instead of, instead of Snipe, because I think I have the range? And while I'm thinking about this, I activate my Fire for Effect friends there with Herne and Jonne, and start peppering some damage and seeing where we're going to get here on Karchev. It's also really fun and interesting to note that with Karchev, you do need to roll a dice for column, because he is kind of a warjack. So this is kind of interesting. I also have to be aware, too, that that's Beast 09 sitting there, and if I actually damage Beast 09, he starts, he gets hyper-aggressive, and he will start advancing toward me. Luckily, though, if I'm doing these rough terrain shots, even if I do damage him, he's not moving all that far with speed 4 in rough terrain. So we're doing all the shots here with Herne and Jonne. Doesn't really do anything except a little bit of damage to Karchev. And I kind of gauge what dice off 7 kind of looks like. Dice off 6 with Herne and Jonne, obviously. And we're just saying here right now, I know I'm going to have to move the Earthbreaker anyways. I'm not going to be able to get a aiming bonus. On top of the fact of being engaged, I'm not going to be able to get an aiming bonus, but I need both my arcs to see Karchev. I'm going to be shooting him from behind, so that kind of also negates a little more defense. And this is because he had to position the way he did and charge the way he did with Karchev to be able to sidearms. Toe, to be able to bring his warjacks where they were on the board. So I'm tuning up for damage, I'm artilleristing, I'm mini-feeding with snipe on him, and just making sure to do this very carefully, because if this fails, then I'm losing the Earthbreaker next turn and the Galleon, and Karchev is probably going to personally gain Pathfinder and come smash me in the face, or Ossrum at least, and this is not going to go well. I'm pretty comfortable with this assassination, though. If I roll a total of 4 shots on the repeating cannon, I'm pretty confident that I'm able to hit everything. If I'm able to hit everything, dice off 7s on Karchev should be able to take him down. We're here using the proxy base, and we're just lining it up just to show him that on both sides I have it. Another problem with this list is higher, armor and tanky casters. This version of the list, at least. Without the access to Iris 1 or 2 for stripping off buffs and things of that nature, it does start becoming a problem if you can camp up beyond 21 or 22, is generally kind of the breaking point. Karchev is a special case too, even though he's at armor 20 right now. He has a lot more boxes than most other casters. So we're going in, we're making sure we hit with the initial rough terrain shot, and this way, even if we do end up damaging Beast 09, he's not going to be able to be moving all that much. In effect, too, I don't think my opponent really wants to move Beast 09, because that lowers the defense of sidearms. In hindsight, I probably should have done those AoE shots last, because they're the highest rat, they're the most accurate, and they are the AoEs, so there's really no risk in saving them for last. There's no other way for me to damage a beast. I had full faith in my opponent that he wasn't going to purposely lower his own defense just because of a lucky splash damage roll. But here we are just rolling, and we see me starting to pepper damage onto Karchev. We end up rolling, I believe, a total of 5 shots on the repeating cannons. We rolled a 5 and a 4, I believe. And so there's a lot of hitting power coming into this, and all of these with tune-up is a power 13 boosted shot. And this is likely going to be all hitting from the back arc with blind, because this will be interesting. And that last shot finally kills Karchev, and we get the assassination with the Earthbreaker. Thanks for watching.
So victory to Mercenaries. I guess they really were owed the money. Khador ended up having to pay the bill anyways. It was a great game. I thought that I really had the upper hand when I rolled in with the Behemoth onto the Galleon to kill the Galleon out. A list that runs double Colossals really starts getting hampered when you kill out one of the Colossals on turn 2, because it becomes a situation where there's a lot less pieces on the table, and a lot less shooting and a lot less presence for protecting your caster. And I have a feeling that one of the things I did notice after the game, we kind of sat down and JD and I talked about it, was that I never, in my turn 2, after I had towed Karchev and the Beast 09 and the Behemoth, after the Behemoth went in, I never actually activated Beast 09 in order to do anything with him. I wasn't going to put him in, I wasn't going to have him charge off or anything like that, because I needed to save him for the retaliation that I was going to get on the Earthbreaker on potentially Behemoth. But I could have base-to-base him with the obstruction, which may have prevented line of sight. He ignores cover, which is obvious, but if he can't draw line of sight because the Behemoth and the obstruction are next to each other, and he can't get any shots off, then that could have potentially saved me from the assassination that followed suit. That being said, it didn't happen, so, you know, shame on me for not doing that. I don't know if I necessarily would have changed what I was doing. I think it's just an attribute of that list where you can get a very early on assassination on a caster, especially a caster like Karchev, who has, you know, done all of this focus spending in order to achieve this toe, sidearms, you know, Pathfinder in order to get the Behemoth up there. Were I to do it again, I definitely would have activated Beast 09, but I don't know if I necessarily would have changed the way I approached that specific turn. I was really kind of pushing for that turn 3, and I thought it was in hand, but obviously it wasn't. So again, thanks to JD for the game. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy, and if you have any suggestions or comment, please feel free to comment, rate, and subscribe. Thank you.